Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Land App webinar on Friday afternoon. Thank you all so much for joining. Today is very much a follow-up from last Friday's webinar, where we talked about funding opportunities in the sector, with today very much being a Land App focused demo about the different tools that we have available to support you on your journey towards hopefully receiving funding for either yourself or for your clients. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping as per usual. Your camera and microphone will be switched off for the duration of the webinar, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. So you can please use the Q&A function at the bottom of Zoom to ask any questions. And we've got a dedicated Q&A session at the end. So in about 45 minutes time. If there's a bit of time at the end as well, I quite like to stay around to ask any questions, answer any questions, sorry. So if you do want to have a chat, I can let you come off mute and we can have a bit of a conversation. And as the session is being recorded, we will be adding it to our YouTube channel. It says 3 to 5 days here, but our current record seems to be getting it up within an hour of completing the webinar. So the marketing team are getting quicker at that. We have got two areas of feedback today. One of them will be clear in a moment. We're using Slido like we did last week, but also once you leave the webinar, either at the end or if you have to leave throughout, there are just, I think, 4 questions that would really help. So please fill out those feedback forms. So what's on the agenda today? So I just want to obviously do the welcomes and just talk a bit about webinars. I think there's a slide on what's upcoming. Then I'm going to just do a very quick survey about who's on the call today. So just a getting to know you questionnaire. So we'll do that in just a moment. So if you've got a mobile phone or a tablet, that'll be handy to get now, but we will be providing you the link so you can access it on your Zoom as well. Then I'm going to spend the most of the day on 2 main things. One is giving you an overview of the different tools that we have in Land App that can support you with funding applications. And that includes both grant schemes, predominantly in England, but grant schemes more generally, and also some other more private funded focused workflows as well. So how do you start preparing for what is hopefully the private sector getting more involved in financing or providing revenue streams to you as landowners, land managers, or land advisors? I'm then going to do a bit of a live demo. I've got 2 main, what I call combinations that will make sense in a moment, but I'm going to be demonstrating countryside stewardship higher tier. So just how do you go from not having any plan right the way through to having a clean countryside stewardship plan in the most efficient way. And I'm also then going to just demonstrate that private sector workflow, workflows that we've been working with the likes of Sainsbury's and Waitrose, and we've got more private bodies interested in supporting farmers and advisors to come through. It's quite a lot to get through, but there will be time for a Q&A towards the end. So just previous webinars. So just a reminder, this is one of many webinars that we've ran. So if you want to catch up with lots of different topics, if you go to YouTube, just search Land App, you can find a whole manner of different webinars, whether it's introductory training, whether it's just how to use Land App Mobile, building a countryside stewardship plan, etc., etc. And so depending on how, I guess, advanced you are in Land App, whether you're completely new today or you've been using us for 7 years, there's something for everyone. So please do have a search. And if you want recommendations, feel free to message us on the support channel as well. You know, what webinar would you recommend we watch, depending on your specific use case? So lots of great content there, and hopefully it's all useful. Right. So what we're going to do is run a Slido. So for those that don't know what Slido is, this is a way of us crowdsourcing some live answers to a number of different questions. Rosie behind the scenes will share the Slido link in the chat. But if you scan the QR code that you see on the screen, that should take you to a web page that allows you to start answering some questions. And I will put the live answers on the screen as well, so we can all in real time start to see who's on the call, and just to make sure that we're steering the conversation. One thing to say is that everything will remain anonymous, i.e. we're not going to be logging your name or email address or anything in this process, so you, answer it as truthfully as you can, and it just gives us a bit of a sense of who we're speaking to, etc. So we've got 63 people on the webinar at the moment, and 22 of them have come through so far. So we're about a third of the way. And if I remember correctly, there is a way of me zooming out. I'm still practicing how to make this look. But yeah, predominantly advisors, which is great to have you here. A quarter of you are the farmers, some land agents, some government staff members, and there are representatives from corporates and supermarkets. No facilitators, policymakers, or technology providers thus far. So we're just going to give it another 15 seconds. Just a reminder, if you haven't managed to get in, the QR code is the easiest way to do it. So if you've got a smartphone, just point your camera. So open up the camera app and point it at the QR code on the screen. If you can't do that for whatever reason, in the chat function, Rosie has just pasted the link to the Slido. So if you just click on that link, you should be able to then access the Slido questions. I think we've got 5 questions in total, so this will be done in a couple of moments. So we've got 32 out of 60, so we're just about halfway. So it's going to get another 10 seconds. No pressure for everyone to answer this, by the way. I'll give it another moment, but I can see some more answers coming through. So links in the chat or scan the QR code. Okay, we will move on to the next question just to keep moving. And by the way, we'll be sharing all these results afterwards. So if people want a copy of the results, they can have them. So what we call as this one's a word cloud. So what are you hoping to gain from this webinar? Whatever comes to mind, please just type it in the answer box and hit enter. And then hopefully what this will start to do is start to find common themes from the people that have attended. So clarity and knowledge, other things that we can cover, which I'm hope to go into is obviously guidance on funding opportunities, how to use specific tools, the basics of LandApp. Is the basics what you want, or is it more advanced? Improving confidence. Those types of things are elements that we may want to look for. Clarity and knowledge was top of the last week's similar question as well. Funding knowledge, reminder of the tools. Yeah, understanding knowledge. Great, new ideas, perfect. So hopefully, by the end of today, even I've learned something preparing for this webinar, by the way, and I've been using LandApp for about 7 years now. So it's hopefully a good time for us to set stock about everything we've been doing and making sure that it's as easy to find the information you need as possible. So clarity and knowledge definitely still winning, but tools I didn't know about, expertise, funding, clarity, about saving time as well. Great. One more person is typing, so I'm just going to wait for that one person typing to put in their answer. And we can move to the next one. Our knowledge is ever growing. Perfect. Well, hopefully I can, give you some knowledge. I'm not promising that I'll be able to solve everything, but hopefully we can steer you in the right direction. So just very quickly, where are you in the UK? We're conscious and being made aware that a lot of our webinars can tend to feel too English focused. But we do find a lot of our user bases in England. Sorry. So it'd be just really good if there's anyone here who's not from England. Okay, so we got some Welsh users. So it's good to have you here. No one from Scotland or Isle of Man yet. No international people. So North of England is winning at the moment. Last week, the South of England did win. So it's good to have people from the North as well. But no one still from Scotland. So we have got probably 1 or 2 people from Wales, but predominantly England. When I go through the demo, the second part of the demo will be GB focused. The first part is predominantly English focused, just for expectation management. But the tools are very relevant regardless if you're in Wales or Scotland as well. Perfect. I think everyone's getting the hang of it. We'll move on. Just in 2025, are you planning to apply for any of the following? So if you're in England, we've put mid-tier, higher tier. If you're in Wales, the Habitat Wales scheme. If you're already in an existing scheme as well, please feel free to tick them. But we're just really keen to know, what is the sense of actual appetite of either application already in or looking to do it. Exploring other public grants, higher tier stewardship, great. There's a number of you looking to do that. I will be demonstrating the higher tier workflow because we've got quite a few new fun things to share. Some biodiversity net gain, some mid-tiers, England Woodland Creation offer, great. And then people are considering carbon credits, other public funding. And so there was one person from Wales who's not clicked the Habitat Wales scheme by the looks of it, but that's obviously not statistically significant. But I'd assume that either you're not interested in that or perhaps that's not your field. Okay, great. So higher tier, great. So that's the most popular of the options, and it's the one that I'm going to be demonstrating first. So that's good. And I will tie it to some of the capital items scheme as well through during the demo. And then my second demo will cover things like biodiversity net gain. It won't be specifically for net gain, but it'll be demonstrating how you get a plan in place ready for net gain if you're interested in that. And also it'll be covering these like carbon credit, private funding type plans. Okay, so yeah, very much focused on the grants, and I think our demo is following this line. Okay, I think there's two more questions. Just if you use Land App, what is your favorite function or tool in Land App? So what comes to mind? I'm not going to say any words just to see what comes through, but what is your favorite function of Land App, or what's the, I guess, the thing that you go to Land App for? Scheme filters is in. Healthy hedgerows. UK have mobile, great. Area distance, calculation and mapping, great. Slope risk tool, great. I'm going to be demoing the slope risk tool because I think that's one of the hidden ones that people don't know are there. So we'll be demoing that today. UK Hab, obviously. Healthy hedgerows. There's a really good webinar. I think there's two webinars actually online on our YouTube about the Healthy Hedgerows survey. Really great tool. I wish when I was an advisor we had it. So would definitely give a shout out to that. Measuring, splitting, distance calculations, etc. Simplicity. Perfect. Agri-environment templates. Alrighty, that's all good to see. Couple of people still typing. Nope, all good. Right, we'll collect them. Mapping being the predominant one, ease of use, but then there's these other functions around the edge. So I will be touching on many of those things, but not everything. And then I think this is the final question. It's just out of interest, what level of subscription do you have on Land App? Are you a free user? Are you on the standard subscription? Or a professional subscription? So just for those in a subscription that they're unsure, predominantly people are in that standard subscription, access to the Land App mobile, access to LiDAR data, etc. But if you have access to, say, the biodiversity net gain tools, that's the professional subscription. Or if you're using the integration API, professional subscription. So, okay, we've got a pretty even split between free, standard, and professional. So that's really good to see. And just to let you know, today's demo, I will be making it as clear as possible where there is a divide between the free tool and a subscription tool. I think take a moment in time to say the subscription is mainly being built to support with like that extra level of functionality, extra level of data layers, but the free tool is there to ensure that no one is left behind. We are adamant and will maintain a free tier to do basic mapping, basic drawing tools, basic area, look at data layers and build a plan. But if you want to kind of take your mapping to the next level, we've got some subscription tiers as well. And 3% of you are not yet registered. Cool, that's absolutely fine. So yeah, I'm going to try and use as little jargon as possible today, but I can't promise anything. Alrighty, so I'm going to pause that for now. I'll leave it open so people can, I think, keep going through, but I'm just going to move back to my slide deck. Alrighty, the time, quarter past. So, basically what we've got is we've got funding support tools. The formatting of this seems to have jumped around, but there's two main elements that we are looking to discuss today. I will have a word with marketing about my formatting. But basically we've got this concept of toolboxes. And so I will show you where the toolboxes are found, but those, when I mention the word toolboxes, they're basically within the three dots next to your plans on the left-hand side that allow you to basically click the three dots and click toolbox, and a world of functions are hidden within there. And then the second one is called data downloads, which is basically where you can click new and download data. And the difference is the data downloads don't really require you to have any data in the tool to start with. So you can start from scratch very quickly with a data download. A toolbox at least expects some form of data to be pushed through it, which hopefully through the demo that will make sense. But just in terms of language, there are slightly different elements between toolboxes and data downloads. Right, so I think a couple of you were looking, based on that word cloud that we did, we're looking for some clarity about what we do. And so this isn't to intimidate you. This is to give you the breadth of tools that we currently have in Land App that are available to different people for different reasons. We will be sharing this table on our website. We only made it yesterday just because we wanted to do a bit of an understanding of where we are. But I think it's a start of us better articulating what tools we have and why they're there and how they can be used. So just to talk you through the structure of the table quickly, because it's worth just spending a bit of time. I'm not going to go through every tool today, but I wanted to at least give you the insight on how you can go and find more information about it. So basically the first column is stage, like what stage are you at with your mapping? Are you just getting started? Then we've got a series of tools. Are you in that planning stage where you're starting to, want to get some suggestions about your land use, or you're wanting to, understand from an advisory perspective what you should do with certain elements of your farm? So, for example, we've got the healthy hedgerows management advice. But that all sits within this planning, this idea of planning. Once you've then got your plan, we've got a number of tools that help the application side of things as well. So you've got an idea of what you're doing. Should I apply for this or should I apply for that? And those application tools will hopefully support with that element. So kind of three main stages of tools and data downloads: getting started, planning, and application. Across the tools, I'm going to go through some of them in a minute, but you can have a little read. I would say if any of these names trigger your fancy, just go to our help center. And Rosie, if you can put the help center link in the chat, that would be good. But on the help center, if you just search for any of these words, you'll get guidance on how to access the tools. So that can be, agroforestry designer. I'm really interested in that. What do I do about agroforestry? You can search agroforestry and there's some really nice help guidance and videos showing you how you do that. So lots of different tools and data downloads. I've added this column called SBI number required. And basically this is a English farmer filter. So if you're not a farmer in England or own land in England, you can only at the moment use the tools that are blank, that don't have the yes in. If you have got a single business identifier number, you have access to all of the tools. And the reason for that is this still at present, the English government makes it a lot easier for tools like LandApp to access field parcel data, for example. Whereas Scotland and Wales, we are messaging them to try and open this up. And if anyone here knows Welsh and Scottish, civil servants or anyone that can support, particularly in the rural payment side, please do put them in touch with us. But we're just struggling to get access to certain data points still. But yeah, if you've got an SBI number, you can do all these things that have yes in. We've included, just for transparency, whether you need a subscription. So when it says NA, you don't need a subscription. So it's free for all of you to use. So predominantly, if you look down the list, most tools are free. There are some that are in standard and some that are in professional that just bring extra value, but predominantly them are free. And then what we've done is we just put them into categories. Like, you've obviously got the stage, but also what type of thing are you trying to achieve? So there's everything from purchasing data. So even though it's on the free subscription, you do still need to buy Ordnance Survey Master Map, for example, right the way through to land use suggestions. I'm a farmer in Norfolk. LandApp helped me understand where I might be best placed to put in woodland or stop water flow across my farm. And they fall under that land use suggestion category. And then the final column, just for clarity, is the product location, i.e. where do you find the tool itself? So there's data downloads, which are back on this slide, which I will tidy up, is the new button. You hit data download, or the toolbox is the three dots next to your plan. So you can hit toolbox or data downloads. Okay, so that's kind of like the whole menu. We're imagining we're in a restaurant and this is the menu of different things you could do. What we're going to do today is we're going to go through two of my favorite combinations. So we're going to basically cherry pick 3 or 4 tools from this list and demonstrate them as an end-to-end workflow, going from that getting started phase right the way through to application and actually onto evidencing if there's time as well. And so the two combinations that I've chosen is I'm going to first demonstrate a countryside stewardship higher tier combination, which is importing the RPA data, then doing some planning, looking at your shine data, some wetlandscapes, and some e-planner data. So these are basically identifying flood pathways and where pollinator mixes might be best placed. I'm then going to design a countryside stewardship higher tier. Won't be able to do the full, a full design because we've only got 40 minutes left, but just to show you some of the functions. And then I'm going to run what's called a countryside stewardship higher tier validator, which just tells me if I've made any mistakes, if I made any obvious errors within my stewardship application. And then probably won't have time today, but then you would be able to take that plan on LandApp mobile and go and evidence it, go and take photos or make sure that the buffer strip is the right length. And so a couple of you said measuring plots, etc., is your use case. LandApp mobile is a really nice place to take that plan into the field and say, hey, does this work for us as a farming business? Do I need to take photos before, during, and after the capital works? The second combination then is the private investment planning, I'm calling it. Today's getting started. I am going to be showing the best guess baseline. That isn't the only place you can get started. So for example, if you're a farmer here who supplies Waitrose or Sainsbury's or Asda or M&S, please just get in touch because we can support you in slightly more hand-holdy way to get this first bit up and running. We'll be then demonstrating some of the planning tools for private investment. So agroforestry, slope designer, and then biodiversity net gain estimator as well. And then depending on time, we've got a biodiversity net gain metric auto populator, and then again, the evidencing. So hopefully what you can see is you can see this list of kind of menu items really works quite well in this kind of combination. And it's that order of doing things I'm really trying to get across today. Alrighty. So before I do the live demo, what I want to just explain is just what happens under the hood quickly of the Countryside Stewardship Validator, because we've spent a lot of time developing lots of validators. You can see them down here: higher tier validator, stewardship, mid-tier and higher tier validator, UCO validator, SFI validator. I just want to explain what a validator is, just so you can get a sense of kind of that value add and that time saving. So with the Countryside Stewardship Validator, what we do is we take a plan that's been designed, and that'll make sense in a moment once we've done it together. But we take that plan. So in this diagram is the stewardship higher tier. It could be an SFI scheme. It could be a UCO scheme. And we basically run it through a series of questions. And we basically make sure that firstly, you're not making any obvious mistakes, like, oh, I'm putting woodland outside of my ownership, or I'm trying to, I don't know, put a grassland option on an arable field. So we do some kind of logic that just makes sure you're putting the right thing in the right place. We also check errors. So for example, a classic error we see is double counting, where you've got I don't know, you're trying to claim for 2 different grassland payments on the same area that aren't eligible as supplements. We let you know where those errors are. And I've got a full list in a moment. Any plans that then have an error, we basically show you on the map where that error is. Hey, you've made this mistake, please fix it. So we basically make it very easy for you to see where you've made a mistake. Or if you've done everything by the book, which hopefully you will have, we then send you something called a validated plan. So we say, hey, here's your validated plan. From that validated plan, from at least LandApp's perspective, it's more correct than it was before, or you've at least ticked all the boxes. But just to reiterate, that does not mean we're taking liability from you for applications, and please do check your own work. This is just to try and make it easier to pick up obvious mistakes. And just very quickly, what does that include? You know, land use compatibility. So making sure the grassland arable options are in the right place. It checks your boundaries to make sure you're doing everything within your ownership. It makes sure that features are compatible with one another. So yeah, whether you've put the wrong capital item on the wrong place. I think we do a bit, for example, if you put fencing near a shine feature, I think we now flag to say, hey, you've put that, you know, capital item on a place that's going to need consent. So we start to nudge you, saying who you might need to speak to around historic and designations, for example, duplicated features, and also certain requirements. So if you need to do a woodland management plan based on some of the options, for example, we let you know. So this isn't exhaustive. This is very much the start, but what hopefully this is demonstrating is that value of using digital data to then help you get the plans quicker. Just anecdotally, you know, Tim, our founder, entered into Countryside Stewardship last year, but it took 6 months before the RPA told him he was ineligible because of this historic archaeological point. He'd put in an option, hadn't realized that it's got a shine underneath it. 6 months down the line, he then gets told. What we can now do is within 30 seconds tell you those types of things. So we're just trying to bring that time to value as much as possible when you're in that planning stage, to save you doing backwards and forwards with the RPA. Okay. Demo time. Let me find my little screen. And just a reminder, the Q&A is open. So if you've got any questions or anything that doesn't make sense, please do feel free to ask them. So we're at thelandapp.com. If you don't know, you can find us. Just Google the Landapp or landapp.com, and you can create a free account to start creating your maps. Once you sign in, hopefully this is teaching most of you to suck eggs, but you can create a new map by hitting the create new map button and give it a name. And I'm first going to do combo 1, which is CS higher tier, create an empty map. Okay, so this is, just to reiterate, this isn't a training session. This is a showcase of the tools so you can start to see it in real time. If you do want a more bespoke training session, either look at YouTube, there's some more slow workflows, or get in touch. You know, we have got a growing team that can come help give training. So do let us know if this is too quick, but I more want to show you the end-to-end process. So the first thing I want to do is I want to do an RPA import. So I want to get the client of mine's farms from the RPA. So I can go new, import data, import from Rural Payments Agency, and I can type in a 9-digit SBI number, and I can bring down the layers that are of interest for me. But just in the name of time, I'm just going to bring land covers. You then can bring it onto any template. If you've watched one of my previous videos, you can bring it straight into higher tier. But what I always recommend is if you bring it into BPS to start with, the land cover then becomes a bit more obvious. So I'm firstly just bringing in my BPS plan. And what that does is that is then brought my client or my farm onto a base map. And it shows you where there's grassland, where there's arable, where there's all those other features that may include woodland blocks, etc., etc. So I've got my map that looks like this, and I can zoom around and click on those shapes. The second thing I want to do is create then a countryside stewardship plan. But before I do that, I want to start to understand a bit more about the farm. So the kind of bread and butter things that people can do is they can search data layers. So for example, I know this farm has got flood zones, so I can turn on the flood zone layer. I'm always interested to know, is there triple SIs nearby? There is a triple SI nearby, and those start to layer on. So you can start to see where these different designations are. But turning on those data layers can take quite a long amount of time, particularly if there's over 100 data layers now in this library. So what I'm going to quickly show you is this generate data layer report. By hitting that button, I can then create a report for my BPS land covers and say, hey, land app, tell me everything about access, tell me everything about designations, geology, historic, ownership, etc., etc. I'll do landscape as well. Hit next. And this is a demo. And what this does is this is just going to take 30 seconds, but it's going to tell me a lot of things about this farm. It's going to tell me what county it's in, whether it's got a flood zone, whether it's in a targeting area for certain woodland planting or targeting area for other things. And in essence, all it's doing is it's taking that farm boundary through all of our data library and just kind of cookie cutting them and saying, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And it will just produce for me, hopefully, quite a simple report that just allows me as a hypothetical farmer or a hypothetical advisor get a bit more context about what's happening. Loading bar is frozen, so we might have to stall for a moment. Keep moving. And I think the other benefit to this tool is that it shows you when you're not in a designation as well, or you're not intersecting a certain, I don't know, part of the data layer library. So my 33 hectares, I can now very quickly see public rights of way. Okay, I got 400 meters of public rights of way, a footpath, and 400 meters of bridle way as well. I'm in Guildford. I've got a triple SI, 2 hectares of triple SI. I'm in B lines. Particularly if you're an advisor, which predominantly of you are, doing this as soon as you get that farm's information allows you to very quickly start to understand who they are, what they do. And actually, interestingly, you can see they're in a countryside stewardship higher tier as well. So like I said, this farm's already in a stewardship higher tier, and what options they've got in as well. So you can see that this farm has got a stewardship higher tier already containing fencing, permanent grass work, invasive control of invasive plants, etc. So you've got lots of different bits of information. I'm not going to go through everything. Please have a play. One of my favorite tools is just getting a very quick, simple report about the data layers. And then at the bottom of the list, everything I'm not in these designations. I don't need to worry about scheduled monuments or special protection areas, etc. Alrighty. So that's the first thing I've done. The second thing is I just want to run some data downloads, some tools that you can find in the data downloads. And what I do is I hit download data, and I've got the full list of everything that I just showed you on that spreadsheet. So depending if you're on a subscription or not, you get access to certain things. But the one that I would like to run, I'm going to run two, is I'm going to run ePlanner, which is a beta test still, which is basically in partnership with the UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology. I'm basically going to run their ePlanner data, which runs some ecological models and some topography models to show me, relative to my farm, the best places to create pollen habitats, to plant woodland, and to do a whole manner of other things. And also, while I'm doing that, I'm also going to run one more data download, which is the heritage data Shine. So we're the first and only tool at the moment that give access to the Shine data that's outside of the government space, although other tools are picking it up as well, which is great. But I'm just going to run the shine data for my farm and put in the SBI number. Just the one caveat in licensing wise is you're not allowed to use this shine data for anything other than environmental land management. So applying for SFI or stewardship is an eligible licensing thing, but you can't use it for planning, for example. So just be aware. So I'm running the shine data, and then just for fun, I'm also going to run one more wetlandscapes. So you can concurrently run all these different plans all at the same time, just to get a sense of what's out there. So I've run it, it's happening in the background, and they take a matter of moments to run. The one thing that we're still just trying to fix is that we don't automatically refresh your map. And the reason for that is the refresh like eliminates the back button. So if you, or undo button, sorry. So if you're in the middle of drawing something and we automatically refresh something, you lose the ability to hit undo. So once you're ready, you can hit refresh and these data layers will start appearing on your left-hand side. So I'm just going to go through them in turn just to give you a bit of a high level what's happening. And so we can start to see a bit more about this farm. So I've got pollinators from ePlanner. So relative to my farm's boundary, where's the better places to create pollen habitats? And this is looking at things like soil, slope, shade, angles, etc. So the sunnier, freer draining areas are these bits. Water resource protection, where is best to start increasing surface roughness or protecting existing rivers, for example. Woodland, so you can see where the areas of woodland might be best placed, so around the edges. Wet grass, where they're detecting in their models, there might be slightly damper areas. For example, I know this patch in pink over here is a damper area, and also the birdseed mix as well. So where on the farm's boundaries is best place for planting your birdseed mixes, which are all things that we can include in our stewardship plan. Okay, so we've got all the different birdseed mixes, just going to keep whistling through. And then the Shine demo. So Shine has the selected historic inventory has actually returned for me some Shine features. So you can click on these blue shapes and see that I've got, what is this? High significant Shine feature in Surrey. That is the surviving sections of Pepper Harrow's Park Pale. Unsure what that means. And also down here, I've got a selected heritage plot as well. So I've got these different historic features that I've got to bear in mind when I'm doing my stewardship. Plus then the wetlandscapes has also served some risk of flooding models, which actually for Norney is pretty minimal. It's all around this flood zone, which was expected. And actually in the agricultural fields, less of a risk. Okay. If you're wanting to have good practice, remember we have got this folder structure. So I could, for example, put in land use and overlays. For example, I can make a folder, and then just to keep my left-hand panel tidy, I could drag all of these features, like all the ePlanner data, into that folder, and that just keeps it a bit neater on the left-hand side. But in the name of time, I won't. So what I now want to do is I want to use my BPS land cover plan, which is this one, to start creating a countryside stewardship. And I want to start using some of those interventions that we've just been suggested to help infer. So the first thing I want to do is create a countryside stewardship template by hitting new, use template, and choosing the countryside stewardship higher tier. I then can, instead of importing it again from the RPA, I can use an existing plan. So I'm just going to choose my basic payment, land covers, as my plan. Oh, actually, I should have named it CS higher tier. So I've got a CS higher tier demo being ran. Okay. And so now all I've got is I've basically got an empty template on Land App that allows me to start allocating higher tier options. So for example, one of the ones that did take my fancy earlier was the fact that I've got this data layer that's showing where wet areas are lying on the farm. So one thing I do know about this farm, and obviously boots on the ground is always going to be more important, but I know this part of the field lays quite boggy. So it's currently in grass. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just split a little boggy bit that looks like this. I held shift when I did that split, and I'm going to cut off that corner of the field, and I'm going to choose a wet grass option. So I can basically select the feature, start typing some keywords, and I want to do some constructed, maybe I'm going to, which one do I want? Manage wet grasslands. Let's just try this. Obviously, you guys as advisors will know a bit more, but we can basically assign that feature to that particular field. And as a reminder, if you do need guidance about where you're eligible, you can click the guidance link and we direct you straight to the location on the Gov website about how much you get paid, where you can put it. So I don't know much about this particular option, but you can draw it on the map and then have a look. And those payment rates will automatically calculate your annual value as well on your map. So I've got my little wet area there. The reason I keep the basic payment covers down as well is it allows me to see where's grassland and where's arable, which does come into use a bit later on. But just in the name of time, I'm just going to add some extra stewardship options down here, like a wetland. I know this is managed wetland for breeding waders or wintering waders, for example. And as part of my stewardship hire tier, I'm also wanting to add some supplementary options. So I can do that by hitting the duplicate button, like so, and typing in the word supplement and having a look at the supplementary. There's some wet breeding, re-wetting supplement or wetland grazing supplement. And so what I've done is I've now overlaid two different features. I've got a grazing supplement on top of a existing grassland option. So there's basically three very basic options that I've built from the land use suggestions. I've used the wetland one just to identify where the areas of wetlands are best placed. And I've also then applied some of my local knowledge about that grazing patch in the bottom. I don't think there's much from the risk of flooding, but all I just need to be careful of is not putting any options that are going to detrimentally impact that shine in my plan. One more thing to demo before I show you the validator and we move on to the quick BNG one, although time is definitely running ahead of me, is when you draw a fence, for example, just to show you, because this is one of my favorite bits of validator, like so. This is me purposely being bad. I've drawn it on Land App and I've given it all the same parcel ID. So all of these have got 2286 associated with that field, although 2286 is just this field number and this field number is 2136. But the fencing I've drawn, because I did it continuously, is the same field ID. The validator, when you run it for the higher tier, will split the fence in two and correctly assign the field ID to that particular fencing option. But you can imagine, zooming forward, you've done this design, you've added your buffers, you've added your field parcels, you've done all your different capital items. You've then got at least some view of what that higher tier may look like. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run into the toolbox. So the toolbox allows me to click on this button. And then because it's a countryside stewardship higher tier, the tool I can see is that higher tier validator, which is the one I want to select. And there's a little tooltip for what each of them do. Also, a shout out, there's some more universal tools that hopefully are of interest, and please check our help center about any of those. Countryside stewardship higher tier validator, I'm going to run it. And what this does is this is now taking this very basic countryside stewardship higher tier that I've created and checking it against a number of the rules that we mentioned earlier. So we obviously mentioned things like overlapping features or the fencing. And so I'm just going to refresh my screen and hopefully if things in the background are running, it's basically going to tell me if my stewardship options that I've put in are eligible, at least based on the non-exhaustive list that Land App has created for this particular farm. This is hopefully going to come through. And check in the background. There we are. So what I've just received, just to show you, I'm going to open this screen, is firstly an email from Land App. So you get an email from Land App that says your stewardship higher tier plan was successfully validated. And it's telling me that everything I've done is within the remit of the stewardship higher tier. If you've made any mistakes, so say you've accidentally put a woodland block on the wrong area, or you've tried to put an arable option on grassland, this email will guide you through where you've made a mistake. So have a play, have a look at the stewardship output, and then you can hopefully start to make sure that plan is correct. And then just to finalize that demo, basically what I've got validated, hopefully will have split. Yeah, there we are. So you can see then that the field ID of that fence that I drew incorrectly to start with has now been allocated correctly. I've got this bit, which I'll shuffle over here, is being given the correct fence ID. So you could go and draw all the fences and put all your points in and then run the validator, and we then assign the correct field IDs to the features, which is a definite improvement to what we had before. Gosh, we've got 20 minutes left and I do want to do Q&A. So I'm going to basically shortcut to the next demo. Happy to take questions on higher tier because there's quite a few of you on there. So I'm glad I spent time on that, but have a play. It's out there. So combo number 2 is we are basically looking at a new site, private investment with UK Hab language is what I'm trying to do. I'm going to basically go from start to finish in probably 7 minutes, hopefully, if everything goes to plan. And I'm going to choose an exciting site that has priority habitat in just to get a bit more variation. So I don't know this area. If you're on the call and you are from this area, I can only apologize, but I'm basically going to create from land registry a boundary. Well, it's quite a big area. Let's go for just this little small area. It may not be super exciting, but it allows me to at least understand what's there. So I've got this little patch of land. I want to know, firstly, what the baseline is. So I'm going to use our best guess baseline now, and then I'm going to just build off the land management plan using some of those other tools that I mentioned. So to get a best guess baseline, you need to do 2 steps. And as a reminder, if you're a farmer on this call, you don't need to follow this first step, particularly if you're a supermarket, just please get in touch. But if you're not under those schemes, you can basically purchase from us a master map license, which is Ordnance Survey's kind of premium data set that turns that shape into vectors, into like field boundaries and shapes, like so. And so for this area, it is £91 for the license. Obviously, the scale of that changes as you get bigger, but do have a little play to work out what the price is for your area. And once you've got a master map license, you just need to rerun that data download one more time, which is the UK Habitat best guess baseline. And what that asks you to do is it asks you to search for a valid OS license. So I've now got that OS license from my demo. I can give it a demo name and run the purchase. So I've rushed through that because it's going to take a minute to run in the background, but I can tell you what I've just done, just to reiterate, but also tell you what's happening behind the scenes. So firstly, I define the boundary. I use land registry to define my boundary, and we upkeep both Wales, Scotland, and England registers boundaries, but they're not always complete. So if you've got gaps, it's because nothing's happened on that land. I then have just purchased a UK Habitat best guess baseline, and we've got guidance for those steps. But what that is doing is that is now sending this boundary through a series of kind of geospatial questions to hopefully output what the habitats of that farm look like. So the first thing I did is I purchased the OS master map, so you can see what Ordnance Survey think are there in terms of its habitats or its land use. So got a little scrubby patch here. We've got some ponds. We've got a track. But the language of that is in the language of OS master map, i.e. all the agricultural land, albeit grassland or woodland, grassland or arable, sorry, is just coming out of agricultural land. And so our best guess baseline does one step further, which is looks at satellite data, looks at kind of the last 5 years of information that we can extract from Natural England or Environment Agency, or if you're in Scotland, Nature Scot, to then provide a best guess of what habitats are on the farm. So take another little moment. Also, while I'm doing that, just because I'm conscious of time, I'm also just, as an example, I'm going to run an agroforestry designer for all of these features. So I'm basically going to choose maybe these 4 fields and bring them onto a new plan. And again, this isn't a training session. I apologize if I'm moving quickly and just conscious of time. And I've got an area of interest where I want to run my agroforestry design. And so this time, instead of basically requesting a download for ePlanner, I'm going to hit a download data for our agroforestry designer. So we've got 3 different tools. We've got one that's linear, one that's in-field, and one that's traditional orchard. In-field dispersed. I'm going to go for the linear design, and I'm going to choose my area of interest. I'm going to give it a name. And again, we guide you, hopefully, as much as possible through designing your agroforestry examples. So obviously, I've never been to this farm. I don't know, maybe I can't remember where in the country I am, but let's just assume that I've got a bit of machinery that is, let's go for 12 meters because it looks like fairly small fields. I want to optimize, I want to get some fruit trees, but I also want to make sure I've got shelter for my livestock. Tree orientation is just, if I know I want the trees to be in a certain way, I can override it by going manual and you moving the slider to get it in line with, say, a tram line. Or if I hit automatic, we'll let LandApp do the modeling. I then can choose whether I want single or double rows. So I'm going to keep it single. You can put in paddock areas or additional paths. I'm just going to leave it as the default settings and hit download now. And so now what that's doing is that's going to run a scenario of agroforestry for this farm. So I can see what it may look like if I wanted to plant rows of trees within some of those fields. It's going to be interesting to know what happens in this quite narrow field over in the corner. The best guess baseline looks like it's still running in the background. Right, we're just coming into the Q&A, so I will just finish off this demo. I appreciate I've not covered everything, but hopefully the agroforestry will show you a bit of a example of the types of land use suggestions we've got. But remember, we've got suggestions around woodland creation, we've got suggestions around wetlandscapes, which didn't quite pay off in the last one, but do have a play. It's free to use and it shows you where there's flow pathways. Plus, there's other tools that you can search on our help guidance for, such as the biodiversity net gain estimator, and some other really exciting toolkits as well. Right, let's hope this is run, one of them. He says it's still not come through. So I'm assuming in the background, people are playing with it, which may be the case. So I'm just going to see. Okay, so the best guess baseline says it's going to be 1 minute. So that's running. Okay, best guess baseline's apparently done. Sorry, I'm seeing in the background things happening. There we are. Lots of fun things have happened. Right, so just to talk you through what I've just managed to get out. So best guess baseline, what it's done is it's taken that OS master map that I purchased and it's given me this vectorized data, so a data set that shows me the existing habitat types, which is this best guess Earth observation. So it's differentiating between the modified grassland here and the temporary grassland, even though actually on the image, it'd be quite hard to tell the difference. So this one's more temporary than this one. And it also tells you some probabilities of why it thinks it's temporary, for example. So this one was bare in September 2019. So whether they've reseeded it or another reason, or it might have just been very dry. I don't really remember what happened in September 2019, but it's detecting something different in the model that says actually it's more likely that that's temporary grass compared to these more permanent grassland sites. These data sets then allow you to also look at vegetation. So we also serve kind of the location of the trees. So you can start to get, where are the trees in the field? So they align with most of them. And the way that this works is it detects trees that are over 2.5 meters. But the data set we use for this is from 2022, I believe. So there is a world where these trees are now over 2.5 meters. We're just looking to improve that model, but it gives you a pretty good understanding of your current tree cover and canopy, which when overlaid, you get this kind of not quite three-dimensional, but you get this more diverse and deeper version of what's happening on the ground. Remember, you can click on shapes and you can edit them. It's very much a best guess. So if you know that that's actually a mixed scrub patch, you can add mixed scrub. If you know that that field actually isn't temporary grass, that is modified grass, you can, update it as well. You're not stuck with the best guess. It's just a starting point to allow you to do the thing. And then I'm going to finish with my agroforestry demo. So I've got this one linear demo from the agroforestry, and that looks quite fun. So I've taken the field, I've said I want fruit trees, I've got a 12-meter wide bit of machinery, and it's outputted these designs. So it's kept 12 meters buffer around each of the field, so I have access. And it's also kept 12 meters between each of the trees. And it's given me quite a lot of detail, both in terms of the types of species it recommends. So it recommends that this light blue dot is shelter broadleaf, whereas this one is fruit trees of semi-vigorous rootstock. And this one is a vigorous rootstock. So you can see it's kind of giving you some suggestions, or giving me some suggestions about the farm. And it's made the orientation of these slightly different. And why it's done that is a number of reasons. It's probably because it's on quite flat land. So actually slopes not being considered here. When you're on a big hill, we recommend going along the contour lines to try and stop as much of the runoff as possible. But it will be optimizing for getting as many trees in as possible. So this is a hypothetical design. You can rerun it and put in different, scenarios, different fields to get different designs. But what I love as a report from the back of this is if I hit the report button, and add plan for my linear demo, I can start to see how many trees I'm actually looking to get in the ground. So for example, for those four fields that I just designed, it covers 23 hectares. Of those 23 hectares, 19% of it is going under a tree row canopy. So I'm losing 19% of my productive land, depending on whether it's grazing or arable. But I'm keeping 80% of my productive land, but I'm managing to plant 2,078 trees if I followed that design. Obviously, speak to an advisor or go and walk the site yourself, but by removing just 20% of my productive land or 4 hectares, I can get in 2,000 trees. And that type of number is what funders will be interested in, is what type of design are you creating and how can I help? So those are just some of the tools to get you that plan. Obviously, you can print them, you can share them, you can collaborate on them. But what I would say is as a call to action, getting a plan in place that could look like this, it could look like the stewardship, is the most important step right now. So whether your client is applying for an English grant or looking to do B&G, kind of agnostic of that, start to understand what they're trying to achieve. Are they trying to promote biodiversity? Are they trying to be as productive as possible? Are they trying to integrate more pest management into their system? Getting a map that shows the intention means tools like Land App and advisors can support in signposting. So for example, if there's any farmers from Waitrose on this call, there is a pot of money available that needs to be applied for over the next couple of weeks. But if you're interested in getting access to up to I think it's up to £200,000, let us know. There is money out there. We just need to get a plan in place, and we can support you with that. Okay, I'm going to take a breather because there's quite a few questions that are coming through. So I apologize if I'm rambling. So yeah, question from Bill: are mid-tier and SFI being amalgamated? Yes, Bill, I believe that is the case. We're still waiting exactly on clarity, but a lot of the SFI actions have been incorporated into, a lot of the mid-tier options have been incorporated in SFI actions. And it's why now when it comes on the recommendations of template, Countryside Stewardship, higher tier and SFI are at the top. And we've moved to the bottom of that list the schemes that are kind of being pushed out. Obviously, heavily caveated with, if you haven't applied for SFI yet, it is currently closed. You cannot apply at the moment. So please don't build a whole SFI plan and appear that you can't apply for that funding. But yeah, you're right. There's lots of amalgamation going, but also some unanswered questions from us as well. James, do you have a key for the coloured areas in the e-planner data? Yeah, James, I think there's a key on the help guidance. I will double check. But yeah, there is, if you search ePlanner on Land App, I think there's a key. Basically, the green, from the top of my head, the green shows areas of grassland that are going into that particular, I guess, ecosystem service provision. So it's green for bird seed mix on grassland, for example, or improving seed availability on grassland, I should say. And then it's brown or orange based on whether it's going on arable. Question from Rob: I'm having lots of issues with the buffer tool to subtract shapes. I'm left with random nodes and can't get rid of them. Okay, so Rob, I would probably say, so depending on how complex your features are, the top tool I would recommend you playing with is in here, doing firstly the geometry fixer. So before you run the buffer, just do the geometry fixer, because there might be some broken geometry that we fix. So just do that first. And if that still doesn't fix it, if you can just get in touch with support and add us to your map, we'll have a proper look about why it is. But apology if it's being more regular. We did just do quite a big update, so hopefully it's nothing too much to worry about. So question from Andrew: are watercourses on Land App now? Be very useful for environment agency applications. So we've got some watercourses. I think we've got the what do they call it? Open rivers. Sorry, I'm trying to remember. So we've got this Ordnance Survey open rivers layer, which, if I zoom out, shows you line features for the watercourses. And I think that has information contained within them, so you can click on them and learn a bit more about what the different colors mean. Off the top of my head, I really don't know what the colors mean, although I can probably find out. So we've got purple here, inland river, and you've got the different ponds. So that's the best rivers we've got, apart from those users of master maps. If you're purchasing master map, you also get kind of the slightly more detailed river. I mean, this is watercourses. So yeah, like this one. you can see we've got actually the water shapes as well. But I think probably the one you need is OS Open Rivers for your Environment Agency point. But if that's not the right data set, as a note, we are more than happy to get more data layers in. All you need to do is drop us a message by using this in-app chat function at the bottom of the screen. And you can send us a message by hitting messages and send us a message and say, hey, it'd be really useful for us to have this data layer in. And we can either signpost you to the right one or add it to our list of new data layers to come in. James Black, how do you know when the background searches are complete? Yeah, so it's a really good question, James. At the moment, we haven't got a proper notification system in app yet, although I did speak to the product lead earlier this week and it did come up. So the source of truth, you'll always be emailed. Whoever runs it will get given an email, and they should receive two. They'll receive an email to say, like, processing, the tool is now running, and then you should always receive an email saying that your tool has been completed. And without sharing my emails publicly, just an example, I just ran the Shine. I received an email like this that said your Shine data was successful. And some steps and some guidance and some logos. So always check, just have your emails open when you run these tools, and we always keep the emails up to date with what's happening. Cool. Listening from Sierra Leone. Do you support farmers outside the UK? So not yet, although Burns, really good to have you here. I can actually probably, I don't think this is a trade secret. We've released for just admins at the moment, so just employees of the Land app. We've now got a global version of Land app. So actually just a little, why not? Let's go Sierra Leone. A bit of fun. Sierra, I don't know how to spell it, sorry. Putting myself on the spot. Sierra Leone. So now, over the next couple of months, we are looking to properly give people access globally. So at the moment, if you are really interested in international, drop us a message and we can hopefully start to have a conversation, because we really do want to start helping. But we have got this ability now to map in, as you can see, Sierra Leone, which I've never been to. I'd love to come. Maybe we can do a little test. And we've just at the moment got river data. So we're just working out what data sets do we get in. But it means that I can now start drawing shapes in Sierra Leone, for example, showing people what's where, what it looks like. And obviously, I'm not going to do too much, but start mapping conservation area, for example, in Sierra Leone. So yeah, it's coming. It's not there quite yet, Burns. So thank you so much for the question. And that's it. Wasn't planning on showing that nor sharing it, but yeah, once we got someone who's dialed in from the continent of Africa, it's always quite nice to show those things. Cool. Thank you, Bill Grayson. Is that an estimate of reduction farmed area based on the size of, oh yeah, sorry. So this is to do with the agroforestry. Yeah, so what Bill is asking is, does the tree row that I showed you in the report, gosh, what was the name of my map? This one. The tree row that I showed you in this report, what does that area show you? So what we've got behind the scenes is for each of these tree rows, we've modeled the type of tree it is. So fruiting, a vigorous fruiting stock will have a slightly, I guess, closer setup than broadleaf shelter. So there's a bigger gap between them, but also it takes into account their expected canopy size. And we then use this green area to basically estimate the size of the canopy once the trees have fully grown. So it does take into account some form of growth rates, but your question says different species. This is different categories of species. So it won't tell you the difference between, say, a walnut and a hazelnut. It'll just group together nuts and use an average proxy for that. So you can see it's just for native conifer. It gives you a proxy for how wide they're going to get versus broadleaf. So it's not quite species level, but it's at least an indication of the type of size of tree row that you're going to get based on that planting design. So I guess if you're grazing underneath it, less of an issue over time. But if you're an arable farmer, for example, that's putting in agroforestry within your system, understanding how much, I guess, area you're not going to be able to crop is a useful proxy. And obviously, depending on how healthy the trees are, will dictate on how wide they go. Okay. So I've just got a nod from Rosie behind the scenes. Thank you, Rosie, saying that that's all the Q&A questions, and that is bang on 1 p.m. So very happy with that. I appreciate that that probably felt quite fast. And so there is a feedback at the end that asks you what type of webinar you want, and that was very much on the faster end. So please do answer it honestly and truthfully, because we can do more of these like showcasing. So for example, I know we've got Rob Brown on the call who's logged into LandApp probably more times than I have. But there might be people here that have never used it before. So understanding, I guess, the level of demo is always useful. But today was very much a showcase, and I think the bit that I'm excited about is just giving people, I guess, transparency over those different tools that they can use. There is a lot out there. Just to put this back on the screen, please just go onto our help center, have a find, have a Google. There's guidance that can help you. But hopefully that's been useful. And what I will do is I will stop the recording and say, thank you so much. If you've got to leave now, please do. But I'm more than happy for if anyone wants to raise their hand for them to come off mute, they're welcome to come join and have a quick conversation. Thank you so much for your time and enjoy your weekend when it arrives. Thanks.